The images are heartbreaking. Dogs and cats forced to lay in their own squalor. Most are sick, some are on the verge of dying. Those are the claims being made by over a dozen former and current volunteers and workers at Associated Humane Societies in Newark, one of New Jersey's largest and busiest animal shelters, which services over a dozen municipalities in the state. A recent joint inspection by the city of Newark and the state's Department of Health uncovered a slew of violations, including animals kept in cramped enclosures without any exercise or light, many of them getting euthanized before being held the required 7 days after intake. And to their disbelief, inspectors discovered a live skunk in a carrier covered in blankets sitting directly in the sun. Video exclusively obtained by Pix 11 gives just a glimpse of the conditions. These dogs, locked away in a cellar, a source tells us they rarely get exercise or have human contact amid loud music and constant alarms.
It was bad that you had to carry the dogs in and out because they didn't want to go back in.
Deborah Honan worked as a volunteer at AHS for 3 years. According to her, when volunteers or workers speak out against the horrid conditions, it results in immediate termination.
It starts at the top. There needs to be changes.
For decades, AHS in Newark has become infamous within the animal welfare community. Deplorable and horrendous conditions at the facility date back to the 80s, something state investigators acknowledged in a scathing 2003 report. Inspection reports in 2009, 2011, and now in 2017 turned up the same, if not worse, conditions. People we spoke to for this report say the reason why, this woman, the shelter organization's current executive director, Roseann Trezza, who has served on the AHS Board of Trustees since the 70s. Former workers, some who did not want to be identified in fear of retaliation, described the culture within AHS as maddening. According to inter-office emails provided to Pix 11, management appears to be aware of the dysfunction, but doesn't seem to care.
It's like a teacher teaching in a classroom but not liking kids. How do you have someone running a facility that has no compassion whatsoever for animals or what they do?
What's even more disturbing, according to our sources, under the direction of Trezza, the shelter would regularly hold animals with compelling stories hostage until the not-for-profit would raise a certain amount of funds through donations.
He was near death.
One of those cases involved a pit bull nicknamed Vinny Van Gogh, a bait dog that suffered a number of injuries, including a torn-off ear. His story of survival went viral in 2014.
They held that dog for months from being adopted. There have been so many cases like that.
Vinny was eventually adopted.
You get an idea of our kennels.
When Pix 11 cameras made a recent unannounced visit to the Newark shelter, it appeared the horrific conditions detailed in the state's inspection had, at least for this visit, improved. The facility is currently running with a temporary license while it makes improvements to get back in compliance. Assistant Director Jill Van Tile, who is fairly new at the shelter, acknowledged there are problems at the facility and insists the staff is currently working around the clock to remedy the situation.
There are things that we've changed now that I would have liked to have changed sooner, and I think it's a good thing.
Despite a track record of violations and years of failed inspections, the New Jersey SPCA, the state's law enforcement agency for animal cruelty, took no action against AHS. The agency itself was the subject of a blistering report by the State Commission of Investigation, where it was dubbed wolves in sheep's clothing, full of so-called wannabe cops who failed to investigate animal cruelty cases in a timely manner. With a questionable reputation of its own in the spotlight, and on the heels of a months-long Pix 11 investigation, the SPCA finally closed in on the organization's executive director Wednesday, charging Trezza with 8 criminal counts and 8 civil counts of animal cruelty. The first step to fixing what one volunteer described as Newark's House of Horrors, where animals are said to struggle to stay afloat and alive amid dysfunction.
The animals that come to these places are at the mercy of these people. If they want to leave an animal in the hot blazing sun, they want animals sneezing and coughing and bloody diarrhea, there's nobody there to stop them. Nobody's there to stop them.
Now, we made numerous interview requests to Roseann Trezza. None were answered. She is expected in court on December 7th. I'm Andrew Ramos, Pix 11 News.